It looks like Kyren Williams could be potentially screwed going into the 2025 season, losing some of his workload to Jarquez Hunter and Blake Corum this year. And we're going to dig into what Snead has to say and also what Sean McVay has to say about this situation, because this is what got social media up at arms, wondering what's going on with Kyren Williams. Everybody talking about his production, his efficiency metrics. What's he going to be used like this year? How are these new running backs going to be used like this year? And are they going to have a committee? Because there are talks that there's going to be a committee. So we're going to deep dive this, look at Kyren Williams, look at these running backs, look at the situation, and see what's going on here. Before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now. We deep dive what the coaches are saying, what the GMs are saying. We're looking at rookie camp clips. Your favorite rookies who you want to see in their new uniform, it's going to be right here. And a lot more teams are going to start rookie camp next week. Click that button, stop missing out. But we're going to start off with Snead here. And he's a fan of Hunter. He likes Hunter. He wants to use Hunter. He's very fascinated with how he runs the football. They spent another pick on another running back to play behind or with Kyren Williams. Listen to what he's got to say here.
What do you see in this kid Hunter, and what you can expect?
Being an Auburn fan, he was just as from a fan's perspective. From the time he got there to now, he's just been a fun player to watch in terms of just how he runs his running style. He's one of those guys that ignites a crowd, ignites an audience. The way he breaks tackles, he runs with joy. And then if he does break those tackles, he has the ability to to hit a double, triple, take it the distance. So we do think the way this NFL season's going, the amount of wear and tear that goes into playing running back, that having a committee with different skill sets only helps us continue being able to run the football like we want to run it.
When I look at Hunter, he is a very good running back. He was one of my gems going into the draft. I had him as a late round gem, a guy that was under the radar that needed more notice. He's very polished between the tackles, a good runner, but he also, compared to the other running backs on this team, has a little bit more pop on the step, has more home run hitting ability, and that could take notice in training camp coming up. But a guy that's really taking notice and really evolving of how he's going to view these running backs is Sean McVay here. And he talks about it right here, how he's going to implement changes, or how he's looking to implement changes. Whether or not he does is a different story, but he's thinking about the future. Here's what he's got to say.
Hey, Sean, within your first answer, when you were first asked about Cooper and when you were talking about the offense, I know it's early in the offseason and things like that, but just generally speaking, do you kind of have a preliminary idea of how different you want that vision to be this year compared to last year, and what does that look like?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, Stu, would be just a little bit more versatility. We had a lot. The easy answer is to complain about the injuries that we had that threw off the continuity. And while that might be true, you can't allow that to inhibit us the way that it did, and that's nobody's responsibility but my own. I think more fully functional. I think even our teaching progressions for the totality of the group. How do you utilize the offseason? How are you making yourself more versatile from a personnel perspective, from just a run variety perspective? And those are the things that I'm excited to be able to dive into. But, I was talking to Liam Corum the other day, and one of the coolest things that I think is reflected about what a great job he did was, you've got a background, and then when you watch them and what they evolved to with Bucky Irving and the way they ran the football and some of the variety and personnel groupings, I thought that was a cool reflection of, hey, maybe we think we're going to do that. And then what you evolved into, if you're able to understand, hey, the best coaches adjust to their players. And that's what we've got to do a good job of as it moves forward, and what it looks like from our offensive line, from the surrounding parts with our backs. But I think, I could go on and on about the variety of things that I'm excited about attacking to hopefully avoid some of the pitfalls that we had throughout the year to ultimately lead to more consistent production and play, regardless of whatever our injury situation is.
Everybody's looking at what the Tampa Bay Bucks did last year. A lot of other teams have mentioned this as well. A lot of teams want to use two running backs at the same time, flip them in and out, mix up the touch distribution, keep your running backs upright. A lot more teams are running towards committees anyways, so they can have their running backs last longer. The injury rate at the running back position significantly decreased last year. And if that holds true, and if it's not just a random trend, then the committee might be the thing these teams go to. So that might mean a reduction of opportunities for Kyren Williams. But the one thing I'm going to say about Sean McVay is he loves him some Kyren Williams. He had 316 rushing attempts last season. However, only 6 carries went for 15 plus yards. They do need that home run hitting effect. They do need that. They do need a running back that can take it and house it on any given touch. Second most fumbles among running backs, a lot of touches, a lot of work. That's going to happen over time. 316 rushing attempts is a lot, as you're going to see here, as we're number 1 among running backs in snap share, second in opportunities share, 5th in weighted opportunities. Team runs per play, 17. Carries 3rd. Targets 31st. Red zone opportunities, number 1. So we're getting a lot of work. Tops in the league, top 5, top 3 in almost every stat there. And when it comes to pass blocking stats, he's up there. One of the most in the league. This is where he's very dependable, getting a lot of opportunities. 179 pass blocking reps. That's 69 most than the second running back on this list. That's a lot of reps. That's a lot of bang on the body. Of course, you're going to be looking at another running back. Of course, you're going to be looking at Blake Corum. Of course, you're going to be looking at Hunter. That's a lot of pounding on the body. We talked about this all season long last year. True yards per carry, 37th among running backs. All per player profiler.com. Go check them out. Free data as well. Yards per touch, 47th among running backs. Not efficient. Juke rate. How many times you're making guys miss? 29th. Evaded tackle, 7th, but we had a ton of touches to get there. Explosive rating, 35th among running backs. Breakaway runs, 32nd. Best ball points added for fantasy, 8th, but that's a lot of volume getting you there. Yards created, 15th among running backs. So outside the top 10, when you're getting like top 3 opportunity, 52nd among running backs in yards created per touch. We're not efficient with the ball in our hands. That's what that's saying. We're doing very good when we get a lot of work. But eventually, when you keep adding running backs, and if one of these running backs starts stepping up, it's going to become a committee. And on top of that, we have an injury history to him the year prior. We played a lot of games this year. But with these efficiency ratings here, with how we rank among running backs, it's not looking good. Not looking good. And you're looking at the rushing attempts, 316 rushing attempts, 1,300 yards, 14 touchdowns, a 74% share of the carries out of the backfield. You're looking down with Tampa Bay because that's what Sean McVay's referencing here. 43rd percentile with Bucky Irving. That increased heavily in the back end of the season, but they were using Rachaad White. When Rachaad White was out, they were using Sean Tucker, and they like to use 2 running backs. That has been noted, and a lot of teams are trying to copy that. We're adding in Hunter here. We got Blake Corum in the 3rd round of last year's draft, who is heavily productive at Michigan, a very reliable runner. 15% of share, Ronnie Rivers, 19% of share. The joke is that they don't let Kyren Williams lead the field. He was getting punt return duties as well, and he's getting a lot of work. Too much for a running back, really, in this day and age. Too much for the long term. They're noticing this. Sean McVay's kind of mentioned it roughly around the edges here, that they need to have a committee. They want to explore a committee. They want to explore other options. Now they got 2 good running backs behind Kyren Williams that they want to see how they can get them involved. And for them to do so, you got to get less than 316 rushing attempts going to Kyren Williams. He could get most of the workload, but you got to get less than 316 rushing attempts behind Kyren Williams. And there's a lot of games where he was under 4 yards per carry. 4.1 yards per carry is not good. He had to work his way up to 4.1 yards per carry. He had a slew of games from like week 8 to week 13 where he was hitting hard in yards per carry. But at the beginning of the season, back in the season, it was like every other game you're under 4. And Kyren Williams here, when we're looking at team opportunities, 38% among running backs on the team. Blake Corum, 8. Ronnie Rivers, 10. Then you look at the Bucs, 25 to 21% between Bucky Irving and Rachaad White. Just sharing the workload. However, Bucky Irving and Rachaad White were both productive. Bucky Irving more productive. Rachaad White more of a coin flip type of play. And if he was cheaper a little bit, then that would have been a little bit better. But more of a coin flip. When you look at him like pure running back on the field, you're not excited about him. And I'm sure some of you guys shook your head no when I said coin flip. But you look at the data like points off and on throughout the season. It was a coin flip week to week with what you're going to get out of Rachaad White due to how he was used in the passing game. He had 57 targets on the season with 11% target share. That's where that came from. He had a few moments, but nothing stupendous. Bucky Irvin beat him out, but a 25% opportunity share, which is going to ramp up, but ain't going to get to 38% because this team does not idolize that. A lot of other teams don't idolize that. Look at the Panthers with Chuba Hubbard, where they had nothing behind them but like Miles Sanders last year, and they still split the workload. They're probably going to look to do that. You look at the efficiency ratings here at Kyren Williams, you're not getting explosive runs out of him. You're churning out 4.1 yards per carry, sometimes a little bit better, but we're just doing good volume. We're efficient, and McVay's got his guy. Kyren Williams is McVay's guy. He will probably have Kyren Williams walk his daughter down the aisle. That's how much he likes Kyren Williams. I would not be surprised, unless he gets hit with a major injury, that he catches that bag with his team. Blake Corum, Jarquez Hunter. These are two very good running back prospects that they got at good draft capital. Very good values here. Hunter, I was expecting him to go maybe a little later, but I like the tape. He's juiced up a bit. He's got some pop in the step. He's the fastest of the running backs. He's going to showcase that in camp, and they're going to want to use that. They're going to want to use him. And he's a fun running back to watch. He's good between the tackles. And just like the other two running backs between Corum and Williams, he's reliable. That's what you like about him. He's got good vision. He's reliable. He's got the home run threat to him. Not like a top-tier home run threat, but we're there. We're there. It's on tape. It's in the combine numbers. Blake Corum is a lunch pail running back that can run your system. Nothing overboard when it comes to talent, but he's good, he's solid, he's dependable, gritty between the tackles, gritty in all parts of the game, and is a running back that can hold it down, and a running back that's probably great in a committee. Like, you do not want him to be your main running back, honestly. He's not that type of talent. He can get you good numbers and a good offense. That's one thing you can say about Blake Corum, but when you look at these two running backs, they also have good potential to make this a very solid committee and maybe one of the best committees in the NFL. When you think about Sean McVay, you think about these running backs. The one thing about Sean McVay, they love Kyren Williams. And he's mentioned trying to make this a committee before. And the reason why is dependability. Dependability is what McVay likes. Kyren Williams is ultra dependable. They had Cam Akers. They ran him out. He was in the doghouse. Very juiced up running back who's done some good things prior to his stay with the Rams, even coming back from injuries. Nothing grandiose, but you get what I'm saying here. They ran him out. They like dependable running backs that run the play to how Sean McVay likes it. That is why Kyren Williams is on the field getting all this work. Does not explore it out too much. Now he's thinking with a different perspective, thinking how he should run his offense differently, how he should run his offense towards his talents. Now you got some different running backs there. You can have guys in and out. I don't think Kyren Williams is done. I think the market was shocked about this. I think Kyren Williams should see a reduction in touches. I think he should see less touches this year. I think that should be happening. And if not, Father Time's going to say it with some injuries, because you cannot be used this much and in this way and keep ticking in the National Football League. And you're looking at these running backs on the roster with what they did. They got the potential to use these running backs in and out. We did not see Blake Corum used. But Sean McVay is also saying, hey, I'm pontificating using these guys in different lights. It could be Hunter used a little bit more. So what you should be looking out for, if McVay really starts talking up these other two running backs, if Hunter blows it up in training camp, he's a lot more burstier than these other two running backs. He's going to look a little different to them. I expect Kyren Williams to start off getting a heavy workload. If he gets banged up, even at all, and one of those two running backs come in, and they're just efficient, just okay even, it's a committee. It's a committee for the rest of the season. They're going to use those running backs in and out. They're going to try it. They're going to attempt it. Now, if these running backs mess up in camp, like if Hunter just has a bad practice or two, then it's going to be the Kyren Williams show to start things off, because that can happen. Just having a bad practice, take the wrong step in the backfield a couple times, that's probably enough with Sean McVay to really keep this being the Kyren Williams show. But I do expect to be some reduction of carries. I don't expect them to want to use Kyren Williams touch after touch after touch after touch. They know they were low on explosive plays at the running back position. That's not just a stat that we just dug up and be like, oh my God. They know. They know. That's why they're working around this. They're taking the values at running back. They're looking at this, and they know they want to use a committee They've said this before. They said this 2 years ago when Kyren Williams went down. They wanted to make this more of a committee. They just couldn't. They kept getting jabronis at running back. Then next year they drafted Blake Corum, but they got trust issues. They trust Kyren Williams a lot. Like I said, I would not be surprised if McVay has Kyren Williams walk his daughter down the aisle. I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if Kyren Williams catches that bag. I would not be surprised. But you also got to watch these trends. And if Hunter starts doing well in camp, and the Rams are very quiet when it comes to camp. I know because I cover all the clips and I look at these teams every day, all of them. They're very quiet when it comes to camp. But when you catch that little bit of information that's very subtle but direct, we heard it with Puka Nacua. We heard it with Kyren Williams. Heard about a few others, but mainly those two. If you hear that, you better just roll with it because it's not like they mince their words too much. They're not trying to trick you up too much. McVay's very reliable, somewhat to some degree, if you know how to read his coach speak when it comes to what he's saying. How is this bad for Kyren Williams? Is he can't get hurt. He's got to get more efficient. If not, it will be a committee. He also has to look over his shoulder because if Hunter does well, Corum steps it up even more, that could end up just being a committee. And they may be just forcing it now. And if you hear McVay talking about that in training camp, that might be on the horizon. I don't really have any projections, but I'm also telling you what to do with this coach speak and what's going on. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I want to hear about that. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.